Now, I want to start today with a confession, and it ain't an easy one, because it involves me admitting I spent $15,000 on something and then went and found out I only needed it half the time. I got a tractor sitting out there under the shed, 32 horse, 4-wheel drive, front end loader on it, and I paid right around $15,000 for it used about 9 years back. And I love that machine. I ain't here to talk you out of a tractor. When I need to move a round bale, when I gotta drag a pasture, or pull a stuck truck out of the creek bottom, or lift something that'd break my back, that tractor is the best money I ever spent on this place, and I'd buy it again tomorrow. But here's the thing that ought to stop you in your tracks. On about half my land, the half that actually feeds my family and puts money in my pocket, that $15,000 tractor sits in the shed and don't turn a wheel. And the machine that does that work is an old walk-behind I bought at a farm sale for $200 off a fella whose daddy had died and nobody in the family wanted it. $200. It's got a cast-iron transmission on it older than I am. It smokes a little on a cold morning, and it has never once, not one single time, failed to do what I ask it to do. So today I'm going to lay this whole thing out straight for you. I'm going to tell you exactly what I paid and what I put into it. Exactly what that big tractor really cost me a year when you count everything nobody counts. And then, and this is the part I really want you to stay for, we're going to count down the 7 jobs where that little $200 machine flat out beats a $15,000 tractor. 7 down to 1, best for last. And that number 1 job is the one that changed how I think about this whole farm. And I mean that. So pour your coffee and stick with me. Now, before we go one step further, I got to be honest with you about something, because I'd rather break your heart now than let you go spend money finding out the hard way. A walk-behind ain't a tractor. It don't have a loader. It won't lift a thing. It won't pull a round bale. It won't move a pile of gravel. It won't dig you a pond. And it will not, no matter how bad you want it to, get you out of buying a real tractor if you've got real tractor work to do. If you've got 40 acres of hay ground, this video ain't going to save you $15,000, and I'm not going to pretend it is. But I'd bet you a good hat that most of you watching this ain't got 40 acres of hay ground. Most of you have got an acre, maybe 2, maybe 5. You've got a garden that's gotten too big to do with a shovel and too small to make sense with a tractor. You've got a little orchard, a chicken run, some beds behind the house, a stretch of fence line that grows up in briars every July. And you've been standing in the tractor dealership lot looking at a $22,000 subcompact thinking, well, I reckon that's what it takes. Friends, that's who I'm talking to today. Here's the way I've come to think about it, and this took me years to get straight in my head. A tractor is a machine for moving weight. That's what it's for. That's what it's good at. That's what all that iron and all that diesel is buying you. A walk-behind is a machine for doing work in tight, careful places without tearing them up. They ain't the same job. They ain't even close to the same job. And the mistake I made for 6 or 7 years was trying to make the weight machine do the careful work, and paying for it in fuel, in time, and worst of all, in dirt. All right, let's talk money, because I promised you a number and I aim to keep my word. The machine itself, $200 cash at a farm sale on a Saturday morning. It's what folks call a 2-wheel tractor, walk-behind, 8-horse motor on it, rear tines, cast-iron gear drive transmission. Now that transmission is a whole ball game, and I'll come back to it, but that's what I paid. Then I put a few things in it, and I'll be square with you about every one. A carburetor rebuild kit, $18, and about 2 hours at the kitchen table with the parts spread out on a newspaper and my wife giving me a look. New drive belts, that was $30 for the pair. Fresh oil in the motor and fresh gear lube in the transmission, $25. And that's the first thing you do to any old machine you drag home, no matter what the fella tells you. A new set of tires, because the old ones were dry rotted and checked all to pieces, $60 for the pair. and I took the tines off and put an edge back on them with an angle grinder, and that cost me nothing but an hour and a flap disc. Add it all up, $200 for the machine, $133 in parts. Call it $335, and one long Saturday. And that machine has run every season since without so much as a hiccup. Now let's do the other side of that ledger, and this is where folks get real quiet. What does that $15,000 tractor cost me in a year after it's paid for? Diesel, about $400. Insurance on it, $260. A set of rear tires when the time came, and I'll never forget opening that invoice. $1,100. Filters and oil and grease, $150 a year if I do it myself, and I do. And one single time, a hydraulic line let go out in the field on a Sunday, and the service call to come out and fix it was $580 before I ever saw the bill for the part. Spread out over the years I've had it, that machine costs me somewhere north of $1,000 a year just to exist in my shed. The walk-behind cost me about $12 of gas a season and a quart of oil. And I want to be clear, that ain't an argument against the tractor. The tractor earns it. But every hour of work I move off the tractor and onto the little machine is an hour of wear I ain't paying for. And that adds up faster than you'd think. All right, now here's the good part. 7 jobs where that $200 walk-behind whips a $15,000 tractor. Counting down. Coming in at number 7, the fence line and the briar patch. Every one of us has got a stretch of fence that the tractor can't get to. Mine runs along the creek where the ground drops off, and there's a corner post with a cedar growing next to it, and there ain't a way on God's green earth to get a bush hog in there without hanging the 3-point on something. I put the sickle bar on the walk-behind, and I mow that fence line in 20 minutes. Right up tight against the wire, right around that cedar, right down the bank where a tractor'd slide. And I do it walking, so I see everything. I see the wire that's come loose off the staple. I see where something's been crawling under. I see the hornet nest before I find it the other way. You don't see any of that from up on a tractor seat going by at 5 miles an hour. Walking your fence line while you mow it is worth as much as the mowing. At number 6, the wet ground in spring. Now this one right here is worth a whole video for some of you. Every spring there's a stretch of about 3 weeks where I want to be working ground and I can't because it's too wet to put a tractor on it. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You go out there and the dirt's ready, it crumbles up nice in your hand, and you look at that tractor and you know good and well that if you drive it across there, you're going to leave ruts and pack down slabs that you'll be fighting all season long. My tractor with a loader on it weighs about 4,000 pounds. My walk-behind weighs about 240. And I weigh 200, so call it 440 pounds total spread out, walking slow. That's the difference between working ground in the second week of March and sitting in the house waiting till April. Around here, 3 weeks earlier in the spring is a whole extra planting. That alone paid for the machine the first year. Number 5, the orchard and everything with a trunk on it. I've got 20-some fruit trees and a row of grapes, and the ground under 'em has got to be mowed and the grass has got to be kept back off the trunks. Now you try getting a tractor and a mower deck in and around 20 trees with limbs hanging down at 5 foot. You'll be ducking and backing up and ducking again, and sooner or later you'll be sitting there looking at a broke limb that had 40 apples on it, and you'll say a word you don't say in front of your grandkids. The walk-behind goes under every one of them limbs, 'cause I'm the tallest thing on it, and I can duck. Goes right around each trunk in a circle without ever touching the bark. And bark damage on a young tree ain't a scratch. It's a wound that'll be there 5 years from now, letting bugs in. Number 4, starting up for a 10-minute job. This one sounds small, and it ain't. It's maybe the biggest one on the list in terms of hours of your life. There's a real cost to getting the tractor out. You got to pull it out of the shed, you got to hook up the implement, which means backing up and getting off and pulling pins and cussing the top length because it's never the right length. And then when you're done, you got to do the whole thing in reverse. That's 25 minutes of overhead on both ends for a job that might take 10 minutes. So what happens? You don't do it. You look out there at that patch that needs a quick pass and you say, I'll get it Saturday. And Saturday it rains. And next thing you know, it's knee high. The walk behind, I roll it out, I pull the cord, and I'm working in 90 seconds. That means the 10-minute jobs actually get done. And a farm is mostly 10-minute jobs that turn into afternoon jobs if you leave them. Number 3, the hillside behind the barn. I've got a slope back there that's steeper than it looks in a photograph, and it's good dirt, south-facing, dries out early. And for years, I never planted a thing on it, because I don't run a tractor sideways across a hill. I've known 2 men who rolled a tractor. One of them walked away, the other one didn't. You can walk a 2-wheel tractor across ground you would never, ever drive a 4-wheel tractor across. And if it starts to get away from you, you let go of the handle and it quits. That's the whole safety system, and it works every time. That hillside grows my sweet potatoes now. That's a piece of ground that went from 0 to producing because of a $200 machine, and there ain't a dollar figure I can put on that don't sound made up. Number 2, the chicken yard, the compost, and every job in a pen. Anywhere I've got fence on both sides of me, the walk behind wins, and it ain't close. Turning under the deep litter in the coop yard, working up the run before I move the birds, turning a compost windrow, scratching in a cover crop in a pen that's 12 foot wide. A tractor's got a turning radius. A walk behind's got a turning radius of about 2 foot, because you just pick up the handles and sling the tail around. You can work a bed right up to the fence, right up to the wall of the barn, right up to the edge of everything. And on a small place, the edges are most of what you've got. I'd guess a quarter of my usable ground is stuff I couldn't reach with a tractor without leaving a headland big enough to park a truck in. And now, number 1. The one that changed my mind about all of it. The market beds, and what a heavy tractor was doing to my dirt. I've got about a ½ acre of intensive beds behind the house. Vegetables, the stuff that goes to market, the stuff that actually brings in money. And for about 6 years, I worked that ground with a tractor and a tiller on the back, because that's what you do. That's what everybody does. And every year it got a little harder. Water'd stand after a rain instead of soaking in. I'd push a spade in and hit a floor about 8 inches down, hard as a county road. My yields were slipping, and I blamed the weather. And then I blamed the seed. And then I blamed the fertilizer, and I bought more fertilizer. What it was a hardband. 4,000 pounds of tractor driving over that ground twice a year for 6 years had packed a layer under there that roots couldn't get through and water couldn't get through. And here's the cruel part. The tiller made it worse, 'cause a tiller polishes that pan smooth as a plate every time it spins. So I quit. I laid out permanent beds, 30 inches wide, with permanent paths between them. The tractor don't set foot in that ½ acre anymore. The walk behind runs in the paths, and I work the beds shallow, 2-3 inches, just enough to make a seed bed. And I broad fork what needs it, and let the roots and the worms do the deep work. Took about 2 seasons to see it. Water goes in now instead of standing. I can push a spade into the hilt with 1 boot. My carrots come out straight instead of forked and stubby. And my tomatoes went through the dry spell we had summer before last with about half the watering I used to do, 'cause the roots could finally get down where the water was. That's the number 1 thing, folks. It ain't that the little machine is faster or cheaper, though it's both. It's that the big machine was quietly costing me yield every single year, and I couldn't see it, 'cause it happened 8 inches under the ground where nobody looks. The walk behind didn't just save me money. It gave me my dirt back. Now, a few last things, and these are what'll keep you from bringing home a $200 headache instead of a $200 machine. First one, and this is the big one, buy the transmission, not the engine. Any small engine can be rebuilt or swapped for $200–300, and there's a fella in every county who can do it. But a wore-out or aluminum-case transmission on a cheap machine, that's the end of the road. You want cast iron. You want gear drive, chain or gear, not a belt and friction disc rig. Grab the tines and try to wiggle them side to side. If there's slop in there, walk away, no matter how pretty it looks or how good it starts. Second, buy old. The good stuff was built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and it was built by folks who figured a man would hand it down to his son. Them old cast iron machines are heavy, they're simple, every part on them is still available, and they will outlive us both. The plastic and aluminum machine at the big box store for $400 new will not make 5 years of hard use, and I've watched 2 of them die to prove it. Third, buy where the tools are. If you can find one with the attachment system still supported, sickle bar, hiller, cultivator, chipper, you ain't bought a tiller, you've bought a whole system. That's what makes it a tractor instead of a garden tool. Some of the best money I ever spent was $35 for a rusty cultivator attachment out of a fella's barn loft. And fourth, run it slow and let it work. The mistake every new man makes is muscling the thing, leaning on the handles and racing it across the ground. You don't push a walk behind, you walk behind it. Let the tines do the digging. Keep the throttle about halfway and go at the pace of a slow walk. You'll do better work, you won't be wore out at the end, and the machine will last another 20 years. So there it is, honest as I know how to tell it. $200 at a farm sale, $130 in parts, one Saturday at the kitchen table with a carburetor in pieces. And that machine does the work on the half of this place that pays the bills, 3 weeks earlier in the spring, on ground the tractor would ruin, in corners the tractor can't reach. Keep your tractor if you've got tractor work. I sure kept mine. But if you're standing in a dealer lot right now with your hat in your hand, trying to figure out how to finance $22,000 to take care of 2 acres, go home. Go on the classifieds tonight. Search 2-wheel tractor and walk behind and rear tine. Filter it to the old cast iron stuff, and go look at 3 of them this weekend. Take $300 cash in your pocket. I'd bet you drive home with something in the back of the truck. That ain't settling for less, friends. That's buying the right size machine for the work you've actually got. And there's more wisdom in that one sentence than in most of what I've learned out here. If this was helpful to you, do me a big favor and smack that like button. It truly does help this little channel grow. And if you ain't subscribed, come on and join us. I put out honest, down-to-earth homestead and farming advice every single week, straight from the place. And I want to know down in the comments, what's the cheapest piece of equipment on your farm that earns the most? I read every single one of them. Now get on out there and go find you a bargain. Take care, y'all.